Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Ma ba'd, welcome back to the second session. Just a recap. We did what the Prophet ﷺ used to recite in Salatul Fajr, and we said mostly he would recite from the longer Mufassal, right? That's most of his recitation in Salatul Fajr is from longer Mufassal. Where does Mufassal start in the Quran? From which chapter is called Mufassal? From Surah Qaf 2, and is divided into three parts, right? The first part is called Al-Atiwal Mufassal, the longer Mufassal, from Surah Qaf to which surah? Nazi'at. And the second part is from Abasa to Duha, and the third part, which is called the shorter Mufassal, Duha to Surah Nas. And also we said, so most of his recitation is from which? The longer Mufassal, but he used to recite from other parts, like from the medium and shorter Mufassal, sometimes also from Mi'in. He recited Surah Al-Rum, which is part of the Mi'in. He recited Surah Al-Mu'minun, and it is sunnah that when you're reciting in Salah and you start coughing, that you will continue, right? What will you do? You go for ruku. We also did that on Salatul, and the Prophet ﷺ once recited Suratul Falaqi and Nas in Salatul Fajr, right? In Salatul Subh. When? Was it on a journey or at home? On a journey, right? We also did about Rakatanil Fajr, right? Is that the correct form? Rakatail Fajr. We said that's the correct form. Rakatanil Fajr is wrong, and this is what most of the people say. And Rak'atul Fajr, he has only two forms of recitation. Either two verses, one from Baqarah and one from Ali Imran, and he interchanges the second one, or he recites Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun and what? And Qul Huwallahu Ahad. And he said what an excellent combination is Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun and Qul Huwallahu Ahad. The person reciting Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun, what did the Prophet ﷺ commented on the person who recited Qul Ya Ayyuhal Kafirun in the first rak'ah? This is a person who believed in his Lord. And when he recited Qul Huwallahu, he said, the general principle in Rak'at al-Fajr that it has to be extremely short. And Aisha radiallahu anha even cautioned, she asked, has he even recited Surah Al-Fatiha, right? We said in Hanafi school, you don't have to recite Surah Al-Fatiha. But the majority said you have to, and this is in accordance to the Sunnah, because Hadith even indicated there are extra verses that the Prophet ﷺ recite after Fatiha. So now we are going for the second Salah, Salatul Dhuhr. Where shall we start? Which table read last? Which table read last? This table. Okay, the next table. Start from Salatul Dhuhr. The next one. This is the next one. حاجته منزله ضوء صلى الله عليه وسلم وكانوا يظنون Nasu? Good. Stop there. Then we continue. Jazakallah khair. Nice reading. وَكَانَ صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الركعتين الأوليين. The Prophet ﷺ used to recite in the first two rak'ahs بفاتحة الكتاب. He will recite Fatiha. This is constant. In all salah, he will start with Fatiha in the first rak'ah. وَسُورَتَيْنِ. And he will recite two surah, two chapters after Fatiha. وَيُطَوِّلُ فِي الْأُولَى مَا لَا يُطَوِّلُ فِي الثَّانِيَةِ. And he would make the first one longer than the second one. And we read this before, right? He would always make the first rak'ah longer than the second rak'ah. وَكَانَ أَحْيَانًا يُطِيلُهَا. Sometimes he will even prolong, he will lengthen the first rak'ah. حَتَّى أَنَّهُ, to the extent that كَانَتْ صَلَاةُ الظُّهْرُ تُقَامُ. Salatul Dhuhr will start. Iqamah will start and Salatul Dhuhr will start. فَيَذْهَبُ الذَّاهِبُ إِلَى الْبَقِيعِ. And one of us will go to Baqi'. Baqi' was in the outskirts of Medina, like outskirts of the house neighborhood of Medina. فَيَقْضِي حَاجَةً, and he will fulfill his need. Someone will go there. Now, Arabs during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ don't have toilet in their houses. They don't have toilet. Maybe they don't have the technology of sewers, but they just hate having toilet in their house. If they want to defecate, they will go outside the outskirts of the city. That is why it is called not ga'it. Another name is called another name of defecation in Arabic is called. It is from that name we have literal translation in Hausa, and we say bayangari. Bayangari is literal translation, meaning that they go bayangari, they go outskirts of the city, and they will defecate there, and they will come back. So now, what the hadith is saying that the Prophet ﷺ used to prolong, he used to lengthen Salatul Dhuhr, the first rak'ah, to the extent that one of us will go to the outskirts of the city, فَيَقْضِي حَاجَتَهُ, he will fulfill his need, meaning that he will defecate, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي مَنْزِلَهُ, then he will come back to his house, ثُمَّ يَتَوَضَّأُ, then he will perform ablution, ثُمَّ يَأْتِي, then he will come to the masjid, وَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فِي الرَّكْعَةِ الْأُولَى, and the Prophet ﷺ is still in the first rak'ah. You see, someone leaving his house after the first rak'ah, he will go in the outskirts of the city, he will defecate, finish, come back to his house, perform ablution, and come to the masjid, and the Prophet is still in the first rak'ah. Imagine how long is this rak'ah. Mimma yutiluha, because of how he lengthened it. وَكَانُوا يَظُنُّونَ, and they used to think, the companions, أَنَّهُ يُرِيدُ بِذَلِكَ, that he intend by prolonging the first rak'ah, أَنْ يُدْرِكَ النَّاسُ رَكَعَةَ الْأُولَى, he wants people to catch the first rak'ah. So if you are imam, you can do that, there is no problem. Maybe you are imam, the salah has already started, and you had some people performing ablution. Maybe it's your friend, maybe it's someone you want him to catch salah. Even if it's not Salatul Zuhr, if you wait for him, there is no problem. It's one of the also most frequent asked questions, that I'm praying that I had someone coming, I finished my recitation, but I want to wait for him. Can I add some verses? Yes, you can add. I'm in ruku, and I had someone wants to join, but I just want to wait for him because maybe it's the last rak'ah. If I didn't wait for him, he wouldn't get any rak'ah. We will say you can. Then someone will ask you why? What is your reason? What is the evidence? Because this is knowledge. You just say anything anyhow. You will say because the Prophet ﷺ used to lengthen the first rak'ah to the extent that people will go to Baqi to fulfill their need, go back to their houses and to the masjid, and they will meet him in the first rak'ah. وَكَانُوا يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُ يَفْعَلُ ذَلِكَ حَتَّى يُدْرِكَ النَّاسُ رَكَعَةَ الْأُولَى. The companions used to think that he did that for people to catch the first rak'ah. So you can prolong salah waiting for someone, there is no problem. What's the reason? Here is the reason. Aye. Who can read further? وَكَانَ يَقْرَأُ فِي كُلٍّ مِنَ الرَّكَعَتَيْنِ في كل من الركعتين آية ألف لام ميم التنزيل سورة السجدة السجدة وفيها الفاتحة وكان يقرأ في كل من الركعتين قدر 30 آية, and he used to recite in each rak'ah of Salatul Dhuhr, the first two rak'ahs, about 30 verses. In the first rak'ah he will recite about 30 verses, in the second rak'ah he will recite about 30 verses. So when someone will ask how could he make the first rak'ah longer than the second rak'ah, what is the answer now? He used to recite 30 verses in each of the two rak'ahs, but we said that he used to prolong the first rak'ah and second rak'ah. Then what is the answer? If someone could ask, then how could the first one be longer than the second one? Dua al-Istibta, I answered it before. Dua al-Istibta, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. And sometimes he will recite more. Occasionally he made it like 30 verses, but then he could make the first rak'ah, he recite longer. وَكَانَ يَقْرَأُ فِي كُلٍّ مِّنَ الرَّكْعَتَيْنِ قَدْرَ 30 آيَةٍ. He used to recite in each of the two rak'ahs about 30 verses. قَدْرَ قِرَاءَةْ أَلِفْ لَامٍ مِّن تَنزِيلِ السَّجْدَةِ. Just as the length of Surah Al-Sajdah, Alif Lam Mim Tanzil, it is 30 verses. He will read the like of that. وَفِيهَا الْفَاتِحَةِ, and he will also read Fatiha. Fatiha plus 30 verses. وَأَحْيَانًا, and sometimes كَانَ يَقْرَأُ بِوَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ. Sometimes in Salatul Zuhr, he would recite وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ, وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ, and وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. He also used to recite the likes of وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَنَحْوَهَا مِنَ السُّورِ, and the likes of this surah. Now tell me, وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى are part of which mufassal? Part of which mufassal? No, medium mufassal. So now we will say that his recitation in Salatul Dhuhr is mostly from the medium mufassal, while in Salatul Fajr is from which mufassal? Mostly the longer mufassal. وَرُبَّمَا قَرَأَ إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ وَنَحْوَهَا, and sometimes he would recite إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ and the likes. How will they understand if he's reciting? This is a very valid point. Listen to me. وَكَانُوا يَعْرِفُونَ قِرَاءَتَهُ فِي الظُّهُرِ وَالْعَصْرِ. They used to understand his recitation while praying Zuhur and Asr بِاضْطِرَابِ لِحْيَتِهِ, by the movement of his bed. So his bed will be moving. Then they will know that he's making recitation. Now there is difference between recitation and imagination of Quran. When someone is reciting in Salatul Zuhur, Salatul Asr, or the last surah of the last rakah of Salatul Maghrib, or last two rakahs of Salatul Dhuhr, recitation is you have to, there must be movement of your mouth, your lips, your tongue, and what have you. But if you just Allahu Akbar, you think you are reciting, you are imagining, you are thinking Surah Al-Fatiha. So in Salah you don't think Surah Al-Fatiha, you don't imagine Surah Al-Fatiha, you have to recite it. And the difference between recitation and imagination is that there must be a movement of your lips, a movement of your tongue, the movement of your mouth, your everything will indicate that you are reciting. Just the difference between the loud and quiet. You are reciting but quietly. That's why Allah says in Quran, ما توسوس به وهو يعلم السر وأخفى. Allah knows as-sir. As-sir is what you said quietly, but you move your tongue and lips. Akhfa is your imagination. That is something that, because I could know that you are talking, even if I couldn't hear what you're saying, once I see your mouth moving, I know you are talking. But when you are imagining something, I don't know what you imagine. I don't know whether you're thinking of something or I couldn't know your imagination. But I know that you are reading or you're reciting if you are moving your mouth. So differentiate between imagination and recitation. If you are reciting quietly, there must be movement of lips, movement of your mouth, movement of tongue. So they used to understand his recitation in Zuhr and Asr by the movement of his bed. So when they saw at his back, they saw his bed moving, they know that he's making a recitation. He was reciting. Okay. Now we finish about Salatul Zuhr. So easy. We finish about Salatul Zuhr, and what we could understand from Salatul Zuhr is that he used to lengthen the first raka'ah so much that someone could leave his house to go outskirts of Medina to defecate, come back and perform ablution and go to the masjid and meet Imam in the first raka'ah. And they think that he used to do it just to like make people catch the first rak'ah, because it's very important to catch the first rak'ah. Always don't miss first rak'ah. By missing first rak'ah, you are missing a great reward of salah. Also, most of his recitation is about 30 verses, and most of his recitation is about in medium mufassal, al-awsat al-mufassal. Okay. Then now another chapter. Qira'atu sallam ayatin ba'da al-Fatiha fil akhiratayn. Who can read for us? The next table. Which table read last? Okay, the next one. And sometimes he will lengthen the first rak'ah. Then qira'atu sallam ayatin ba'da al-Fatiha fil akhiratayn. His recitation of some verses in the last two rak'ah after Fatiha. What we know traditionally, in the last two rak'ah you only read Fatiha, and in the first two rak'ah you read Fatiha and Surah. Now we know in the first two rak'ah he recites Fatiha, and after that he recites about 30 verses, mostly from medium mufassal. Now what of the last two rak'ah? In the last rak'ah, is there any recitation after Fatiha? Now this chapter will tell us the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in this last 2 rakat of Salatul Zuhr. وكان يجعل ركعتين الأخيرتين أكثر من الأوليين. The Prophet used to make the last 2 rakat shorter than the first 2 rakat. So in Salatul Dhuhr, this is known to all of you. The last 2 rakat are shorter than the first 2 rakat. Qadar an-nisf, but just about half of it. Do you understand? Like if he will spend 5 minutes in the first rak'ah, 4 minutes in the second rak'ah, in the third and fourth rak'ah he will spend about 2 minutes. It will be half the first rak'ah, half the first 2 rak'ahs. So then how could that be? If you read only Fatiha, then it wouldn't work. It will not be half. It will be like a quarter. Qadra 15 ayah. He will recite about 15 verses. So it's permissible. In the last 2 rak'ah you can also recite some verses after Fatiha. So it's not always that in the last 2 rak'ah you just recite Fatiha. In Salatul Zuhr, the Prophet ﷺ in the last 2 rak'ahs, after Fatiha, he will recite about how many verses? About 15 verses. Is it clear? طيب. وَرُبَّمَا اقْتَصَرَ فِيهِمَا عَلَى الْفَاتِحَةِ. And sometimes he will just recite Fatiha. So it's optional. When you have someone reciting after, like he prolonged his salah, you think that he's supposed to have finished Fatiha, but he's just reciting. The Prophet ﷺ used to recite almost up to 15 verses in the last two rak'ahs. So this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in Salatul Zuhr. He will the first 2 rak'ahs, he will recite, in the first 2 rak'ahs he will recite about 30 verses, and in the last 2 rak'ahs he will recite about 15 verses, and sometimes he will only recite Fatiha. So what we know traditionally of only reciting Fatiha in the last 2 rak'ahs is optional. It's one of the 2 options the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Sometimes he will recite only Fatiha, it's fine, but sometimes he will recite up to how many verses? 15 verses. So in all, how many verses will Salatul Zuhr be? 90 verses, right? Mostly 90 verses. 30 verses in the first rak'ah, 30 verses in the second rak'ah, making how many? 60. Then 15 in the last two rak'ahs. Right. I don't want to say you are scholars in Salatul Zuhr. I will say you are expert in Salatul Zuhr, inshallah. طيب وجوب قراءة الفاتحة في كل ركعة. Who can read for us? The obligation of reciting Fatiha in each rak'ah. Now, when you said it's optional after Fatiha in the last 2 rak'ahs, if you wish you can add 15 verses. If you wish you can stop there. Also, don't think that Fatiha is also optional. That is why he made this heading. Don't think Fatiha is optional. Fatiha is obligatory in all rak'ahs. In all rak'ahs of prayer, you have to recite Fatiha. He said, وَقَدَ أَمَرَ الْمُسِيءَ صَلَاتَهُ. He commanded the person who prayed badly. We mentioned the story of the person who prayed badly in the first session, in the last 3 months, the first session we did. That it was someone, if you are coming for the first time, it was someone, one of the companions that came to the masjid, and he went directly, he prayed 2 rakat. Then he went to the Prophet ﷺ, sitting in the masjid. He said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. He said, Salam. The Prophet ﷺ replied to him and said, Irji'i fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli. Go back and pray. You didn't pray. That your 2 rak'ah are not valid. You didn't pray well, so go and pray again. He went, he prayed another 2 rak'ah. He met the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Salam again. The Prophet replied him and said, Irji'i fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli. Go back and pray. You didn't pray. That your prayer is not good enough. He went and did for the 3rd time. He went to the Prophet ﷺ and said salam to him. The Prophet ﷺ said the something, that your prayer is not complete, it's not valid, go and pray again. Then he said, وَالَّذِي بَعَثَكَ بِالْحَقِّ لَا أُحْسِنُ غَيْرَهَا فَعَلِّمْنِي. I swear to the one who sent you with the truth, I can't do more than I did. Just teach me how to pray. Then the Prophet ﷺ started teaching him how to pray. This hadith, the way the Prophet taught him, is the longest hadith of prayer and it's most comprehensive hadith. So what I told you earlier in the last session is that it is from that hadith that Sheikh will be quoting in each chapter, in each heading, because the Prophet taught him how to pray from istiqbal al-qibla, from wudu, from istiqbal al-qibla till salam. So in each heading you will find that is what the Prophet ﷺ told him to do. When you come to pray, when you are standing, do this. When you go to ruku, this is what you shall do. When you go to... So the Prophet ﷺ, now Sheikh is quoting from that hadith. He said the obligation of reciting Fatiha in each of the rak'ahs. He said, وَقَدْ أَمَرَ الْمُسِيءَ صَلَاتَهُ. The Prophet commanded the person who prayed badly. That person is referred to in the book of Hadees as the person who prayed badly. Because he prayed badly, that's why the Prophet asked him to pray again 4 times. بِقِرَاءَةِ الْفَاتِحَةِ. The Prophet commanded him to recite Fatiha fi kulli raka'ah. So when the Prophet was teaching him Salah, he said, and you have to recite Fatiha in each raka'ah. Then now we understand that you have to recite Fatiha. It's an obligation because the Prophet commanded him to recite Fatiha in each raka'ah. حَيْثُ قَالَ لَهُ. When the Prophet said to him, بَعْدَ أَنْ أَمَرَهُ بِقِرَاءَتِهَا فِي الرَّكَعَةِ الْأُولَى. After the Prophet commanded him to recite Fatiha in first raka'ah, he said, ثُمَّ افْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فِي صَلَاتِكَ كُلِّهَا. Then do the same, repeat the same in all your salah. In all raka'at, you have to repeat Surah Al-Fatiha. وَفِي رِوَايَةٍ. In another narration, he said, فِي كُلِّ raka'ah. In each raka'ah, you have to repeat that. He told him, in the first raka'ah, you have to recite Fatiha. And in each raka'ah, you have to repeat that. So there is obligation of reciting Fatiha in each raka'ah. What is after Fatiha? We come to know that in some cases it is optional. In most of the cases it's optional, but in some cases it's more stronger sunnah than in another case. Then this is another point, next point. وَكَانَ يُسْمِئُهُمُ الْآيَةَ أَحْيَانًا. Sometimes he will let them hear a verse. In Salatul Zuhr. Salatul Zuhr, is it quiet salah or loud salah? Quiet salah. But sometimes when the Prophet ﷺ is praying in Salatul Zuhr, he will let them hear a verse. And this is a very important point I want you to understand. Based on this, some scholars like Bin Baz is the contemporary, but other pious predecessors said, if you recite some verses loudly in Salah, where you're supposed to recite quiet, you don't pray sujood sahu. Normally in Maliki school, if you come pray in Salatul Zuhr and you mistakenly pray loud, you have to do sujood al-ba'di because you are increasing. But some scholars said because of this hadith, it doesn't matter. If you pray loud, you pray some verses loud, you don't have to do salatul sujood sahu because the Prophet said, "Kana yusmihumul ayah." Sometimes he will let them hear a verse from him. He continues to say that وَكَانُوا يَسْمَعُونَ مِنْهُمُ النَّغْمَةِ. They will hear the tone of his recitation بِسَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. So how will they understand that he is reciting these chapters we said in Salatul Zuhr? Salatul Zuhr is supposed to be quiet. They will understand that he's reciting by the movement of his bed and which chapter he recited by letting them hear a verse. So sometimes يُسْمِعُهُمُ النَّغْمَةَ بِسَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. They will hear the tone of his recitation بِسَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. So after وَلَضَّالِّينَ Salatul Zuhr, but he will say سَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى loudly. Then they will know that this is the chapter he's reciting. Then he will continue reciting quietly. So you can do that sometimes, even when you are leading. I know many imams who do that. Where you pray in behind them Salatul Zuhr, but they will let you hear a verse that know that this is the chapter I'm reciting. It's part of the sunnah. That is why reading this book, as I told you earlier, is one of the most comprehensive books written in Salah. If not, I think it's the most comprehensive. It's the most comprehensive book written in Salah, and it's in circulation, and it's the most blessed book of the author. The author have many books, more than 200 books, but this is the most blessed, and he loved this book so much so that he used to make reference about it in many of his books. And he said, "This is my blessed book that Allah has written blessing on it and accepting on it, that in each corner it is read by many people." وَكَانَ أَحْيَانًا يَقْرَأُ بِوَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ. Sometimes in Salatul Zuhr he will recite وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ وَبِالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ and وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ وَنَحْوِهِمَا. Which category are these surah? وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْبُرُوجِ and وَالسَّمَاءِ وَالطَّارِقِ. Which category? Medium mufassal. So now we will understand that his recitation in Salatul Zuhr is mostly where? In medium mufassal. While in Salatul Subh is where? Mostly in Salatul Fajr is longer mufassal. وَأَحْيَانًا يَقْرَأُ وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. Sometimes he will recite وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى وَنَحْوَهَا and the likes of وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. So now we are done with Salatul Zuhr. To summarize, he used to lengthen the first rak'ah to such an extent that the person will go outskirts of Medina and will fulfill his need, go back to his home, go to perform ablution, go to the masjid and catch the first rak'ah. And the companions think that he is doing that to let people catch the first raka'ah. And we also read that he recites 30 verses in each of the first raka'ahs, and mostly from the medium mufassal. And also in the last two raka'ahs, he also used to recite in Salatul Dhuhr, about 15 verses, but it's optional. Sometimes he will just recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Clear? Inshallah, it's clear to all of you? Okay, now Salatul Asr. Ania, read after me. ويطول في الأولى ما لا يطول في الثانية ويطول في الأولى ما لا يطول في الثانية. Okay, repeat yourself 3 times as well. What's the meaning of this sentence? He will make the first raka'ah longer than the second. So this is a principle generally in all his salah, that the first raka'ah is longer than the second. Okay. Now what is Sunnah of Recitation in Salatul Asr? وَكَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَقْرَأُ فِي الْأُولَيَيْنِ. The Prophet ﷺ would recite in the first 2 raka'ahs بِفَاتِحَةِ الْكِتَابِ. He will recite Fatiha. This is known to all of us. وَسُورَتَيْنِ. And he will recite 2 chapters after Fatiha. وَيُطَوِّلُ فِي الْأُولَى مَا لَا يُطَوِّلُ فِي الثَّانِيَةِ. He will make the first raka'ah longer than the second raka'ah. وَكَانُوا يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُ يُرِيدُ بِذَلِكَ. They used to think that he intend with that أَن يُدْرِكَ النَّاسُ الرَّكَعَةِ, that he wants people to catch first raka'ah. As we said in Salatul Dhuhr, he will prolong the first raka'ah, then the second raka'ah, and the Sahaba used to think that he is doing that for Sahaba to catch the first raka'ah. وَكَانَ يَقْرَأُ فِي كُلٍّ مِّنْهُمَا قَدَرَ 15 آيَةً. And he would recite in each of the first 2 raka'ahs with 15 verses. In Salatul Dhuhr, how many verses in the first 2 raka'ahs? 20. And in Salatul 20? 30, yeah. In Salatul Asr, he used to recite how many verses? 15. على قدر نصف ما يقرأ من الركعتين الأولين في الظهر. Just about half what he recite in Salatul Zuhur. Just half what he recite in Salatul Dhuhr, which is 30, he recite now 15. وكان يجعل الركعتين الأخيرتين أكثر من الأوليين. He used to make the last 2 rak'ah of Salatul Asr to be shorter than the first 2 rak'ahs, just he did in Zuhur. قدر نصفهما, just like half the first 2 rak'ahs. وكان يقرأ فيهما بفاتحة الكتاب. He used to recite Fatiha in the last 2 rak'ahs of Salatul Asr. وكان يسمعهم الآية أحيانا. And sometimes he will let them hear a verse. Even in Salatul Asr, it is quite salah, but he will speak louder for 1 verse. He will read loudly for 1 verse or 2 for them to know that he is reciting this particular verse or chapter. وَيَقْرَأُ فِي السُّوَرِ الَّتِي ذَكَرْنَا فِي صَلَاةِ الظُّهُرِ. He usually used to recite the chapters we mentioned in Salatul Zuhur. So in the medium mufassal is his recitation also in Salatul Asr, but he used to make Salatul Asr shorter than Salatul Dhuhr, like about half of his recitation in Salatul Zuhur. Is this understood? So we are done with Salatul Asr. Now let's move to Salatul Maghrib. Now coming forward, this table hasn't read. I think it's created just now after our first class. So from here, someone shall read for us Salatul Maghrib.
حتى إنهم كانوا إذا صلوا معا وسلم بهم انصرف أحدهم وإنه ليبصر مواقع نبله.
ممتاز.
وقرأ في السفر والتين والزيتون في الركعة الثانية. وكان أحيانا يقرأ بالطوال المفصل وأوساطه فكان تارة يقرأ إن الذين كفروا وصدوا عن سبيل الله وتارة بالطور وتارة بالمرسلات. قرأ بها في آخر صلاة صلاها صلى الله عليه وسلم وكان أحيانا يقرأ
بطول الطولين
الأعراف
في الركعتين
وتارة بالأنفال في الركعتين.
MashaAllah, very nice reading. What he used to recite in Salatul Maghrib. وَكَانَ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ يَقْرَأُ فِيهَا أَحْيَانًا. And sometimes the Prophet will recite in Salatul Maghrib بِكِسَارِ الْمُفَصَّل, with a shorter mufassal. So starting from which chapter? Surah Al-Duha. So most of his recitation in Salatul Maghrib is from shorter mufassal, right? So now in Salatul, we said his recitation in Salah is, most of his recitation in Salah generally is from where? It's from mufassal. That's most of his recitation. Salatul Subh is where? Longer mufassal. Salatul Dhuhr is Salatul Zuhr and Asr, both of them in medium mufassal. And Salatul Maghrib in what? That's the importance of knowing mufassal and their division and where the Prophet ﷺ used to recite. Hatta innahum, to the extent that some of them use kanu idha sallaw ma'ahu, when they pray with him, wa sallama bihim, and he said salam, in sarafa ahaduhum, one of them will leave salah, wa innahu la yabsuru mawaqi'a nablihi, who will see where his arrow landed. He will shoot an arrow after Salatul Maghrib. You know, Salatul Maghrib starts after the sun sets, so the darkness has already started. But because he shortened prayer in Salatul Zuhr, once he says salam, assalamu alaikum, if you shoot an arrow, you will see where it landed. So it's not, the darkness is not complete, right? You can see where you are. Your arrow will go maybe as far as 500 meters. Not that long, not up to 1 kilometer, maybe 500 meters, maybe less than 1 kilometer. But you can see where an arrow, you know, arrow is really small. You see where it will land. So you could say that he will finish Salatul Maghrib when the sky is still bright. There is brightness in the sky. It's not yet dark. It's not yet time for Isha. It's not yet dark. So he can see where his arrow landed. لَإِنَّهُ لَا يَرَى مَوْقِعَ نَبْلِهِ. وَقَرَأَ فِي السَّفَرِ. One day, or once he was on a journey, he read وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. فِي الرَّكَعَةِ الثَّانِيَةِ, in the second rak'ah, he read وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. You see, Sahaba, they reported even what he read in the second rak'ah. Maybe the companion forgot the first rak'ah. But you could remember in the second rak'ah, the Prophet ﷺ reported, read, what do you call it? Read وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. وَكَانَ أَحْيَانًا يَقْرَأُ بِطِوَالِ الْمُفَصَّل. But sometimes the Prophet ﷺ read from longer mufassal and also medium mufassal. So mostly, as we said in Salatul Fajr, that mostly he recites from where? From longer mufassal. But sometimes he even read Qul a'udhu bil falaki and Qul a'udhu bin nas from shorter mufassal. But mostly he recites from longer mufassal. Now in Salatul Maghrib, mostly he recites from where? Shorter mufassal. But sometimes he can read from medium and longer mufassal. فَكَانَ تَارَةً يَقْرَأُ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Taratan he will read this verse in Surah Muhammad. I think it's Surah Muhammad. وَتَارَةً بِالطُّورِ. Sometimes he will recite Surah Al-Tur. He used to recite Surah Al-Tur in which Salah? Salatul Fajr we read, right? But now even Maghrib, he would recite Surah Al-Tur sometimes. وَتَارَةً بِالْمُرْسَلَاتِ. Sometimes he will read Surah Al-Mursalat. وَالْمُرْسَلَاتِ عُرْفًا. قَرَأَ بِهَا فِي آخِرِ صَلَاةٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. He read Surah Al-Mursalat in the last Maghrib prayer he prayed in this dunya. His last Maghrib prayer, which surah did he recite? وَالْمُرْسَلَاتِ عُرْفًا. So now when you are reciting وَالْمُرْسَلَاتِ عُرْفًا in Salatul Maghrib, it will remind you that this is the chapter the Prophet ﷺ recited in the last Salatul Maghrib he prayed. Now you have knowledge about what you are reciting. وَكَانَ أَحْيَانًا يَقْرَأُ بِطُولِ الطُّولَيَيْنِ. Sometimes he will recite the longer of two longest surah. There are two longest surah. They are called two longest surah in the Quran. They are just called Ulayayni. It is Surah Al-Araf and Surah Al-An'am. But Surah Al-Araf is longer. It's longer than Surah Al-An'am. They are called Ulayayni. They are two long surah, Ulayayni. But sometimes in Maghrib he even read the longest of two long surahs in the Quran, which is Surah Al-Araf. He said Al-A'raf. He mentioned the surah. في ركعتين in 2 rak'ahs. So he read half of Surah Al-A'raf in the first rak'ah and half of it in the second rak'ah, which means he prolonged the salah. So sometimes you can prolong your recitation in Surah Al-Maghrib, but mostly he will shorten Surah Al-Maghrib. Mostly he will recite from shorter mufassal, but there was a day when he read even Surah Al-A'raf, like he divided it into 2. He read the first part in first rak'ah and the second part in second rak'ah. وَتَارَةً بِالْأَنْفَالِ. And sometimes he read Surah Al-Anfal for rak'atain in 2 rak'ahs. He divided Surah Al-Anfal into 2, the first part in the first rak'ah and the second part in the second rak'ah. Understood? So now we are done with Maghrib. A recap. In Salatul Fajr, he mostly recite, in all of his salah, he mostly recite from where? From Mufassal. In Salatul Fajr, from the longer Mufassal. In Salatul Zuhr and Asr, from medium Mufassal. In Salatul Maghrib, from shorter Mufassal. But sometimes in Salatul Fajr, he can recite even the shorter Mufassal, mostly when he's on journey. And in Salatul Maghrib, he can recite even the longer Mufassal, and even something that is longer than the longer Mufassal, like the longer of 2 long chapters of the Quran, Surah Al-A'raf, and he read also Surah Al-Anfal. Understood? Okay. Now let's move to Al-Qira'ah. Okay. Al-Qira'atu fi Sunnatil Maghrib. As regards to the 2 rak'ahs after the Sunnah after Maghrib, فَكَانَ يَقْرَأُ فِيهَا. He would recite in it, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ in the first rak'ah, وَقُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Where did he used to recite this? Not here. That was another salah. Where? What? Rak'atay al-Fajr. Yeah, Rak'atay al-Fajr he used to recite also. And he said something about the combination of this. He said what? No, he said something about a sentence about the combination of 2. He said, what an excellent combination. And he said about Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun that what? Yeah, he believed in his Lord. And Qul huwa Allahu ahad, he said what? He knows his Lord. So now we have 2 places in 2 salah where the Prophet ﷺ recite Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun and Qul huwa Allahu ahad. After Maghrib is constant on Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun and Qul huwa Allahu ahad. After in Salatul Subh, he has 2 verses that he used to recite. One in Surah Al-Baqarah, the second in Surah Al-Imran. Two in Surah Al-Imran, he used to interchange between them. Okay, do you know any other salah that the Prophet also used to recite these 2 surah? The excellent combination. Is there any place beside these 2? It's not mentioned in this book. It won't be mentioned in this book. Yeah. If you go to Umrah or Hajj, after circumambulating Kaaba 7 times, you pray 2 rak'at. And he also used to recite these chapters. Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun in the first, and Qul huwa Allahu ahad in the first. Just a short story. About I think 2000, it happened in 2001 or 2002. We were given a guide to pilgrims, to Hujjaj in Medina. And I went to one of the houses and I was telling them that when you finish circumambulation, seven circumambulation tawaf, you have to pray 2 rak'ahs. And in these 2 rak'ahs, in the first rak'ah, you recite Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun. And in the second rak'ah, you recite Qul huwa Allahu ahad. You know, the congregation, the people going to Hajj from villages, Qul huwa Allahu and Qul huwa is shorter surah and easy surah. And one of them didn't like it. He tell me, Sheikh, say we shall read Surah Al-A'la, Sabbi Isma Rabbika Al-A'la. Because he wants to show me that he memorized it and they didn't memorize it. He said, Wallahi inda ma anci akaranta sabbi. Yana ji haushin su a ce akaranta sabbi. Then I tell him, it's not by my opinion. I'm not the one who instructing what you shall recite. It's already written in the book. This is what the Prophet ﷺ read. But he just wanted to show me that he's knowledgeable and others are not. That I shall ask them to read Surah Al-A'la. There, he knows that many of them couldn't do that. Anyway, it's just a short story, a break. So now, تارة
والشمس وضحاها
وأشباهها من الصور.
وتارة باء إذا الشمس
بي.
إذا السماء انشقت
Mm.
وكان يسجد بها
Mm.
وقرأ مرة في سفر والتين والزيتون في الركعة الأولى ونهي عن
ونهى
ونهي
Okay, stop there. We will come back to that. العشاء كان صلى الله عليه وسلم يقرأ في الركعتين الأوليين. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite in the first two rak'ahs min wasat al-mufassal, from the medium mufassal. Now we are done with 5 daily prayers. The Salatul Fajr from the longer mufassal, Salatul Dhuhr, Salatul Asr, and Salatul Isha in the medium mufassal. Salatul Maghrib in what? In shorter mufassal. فَكَانَ تَارَةً يَقْرَأُ بِوَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. Sometimes he would read from وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَأَشْبَاهَهَا مِنَ السُّوَرِ, and the likes of وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا from chapters. وَتَارَةً بِإِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ. Sometimes he will recite إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ وَكَانَ يَسْجُدُ بِهَا, and he will do sujood in وَالسَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ. Where is sujood in وَالسَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ? Where is sujood? وَإِذَا قُرِئَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقُرْآنُ لَا يَسْجُدُونَ. This is one of the verses in that chapter. So when he is reciting إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ, when he reaches وَإِذَا قُرِئَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقُرْآنُ لَا يَسْجُدُونَ, from standing he will go to sujood. He will do sujood, then he will raise up and he will continue reciting to the end of the surah, then he will go for ruku. Also, when we said on Friday, who could remind me of the surah he used to recite in Salatul Fajr on Friday? From sisters only, from sisters. Salatul Fajr on Friday. Surah to Sajda. Also in Surah to Sajda there is Sajda. It's called Surah to Sajda because there is Sajda in it. وَلَا تَعْلَمُ نَفْسٌ مَا أُخْفِيَ لَهُمْ. Before that verse, تَتَجَافَى جُنُوبُهُمْ عَنِ الْمَضَاجِعِ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ خَوْفًا وَطَمْعًا وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. He will go for sujood. So in Salatul Fajr on Friday, he normally in the first rakah he normally did 3 sujood. The first sujood before ruku, when he was reciting Surah to Sajda, and also 2 normal sajdas of the raka'ah. Okay. وَقَرَأَ مَرَّةً, and once he recited fi safar, when he was on a journey, he recited وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. So وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ, the Prophet recited the surah in Salatul Maghrib we read, and now in Salatul Isha as well. He read وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. So try to memorize this chapter, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ. And when you are praying Maghrib and Isha, you can read in both of them, knowing that the Prophet once read وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ in Salatul Isha, and he also read it in Salatul Maghrib. But in Salatul Isha it was on a journey. Who can read from there? Now our class is going faster in this second, mashallah. We did only Salatul Fajr and Rak'atul Fajr in the first class, but now we're doing all the salahs. It's very important. This hadith is very important. We can deduce many rulings from this hadith. He said, وَنَهَا عَنْ إِطَالَةِ الْقِرَاءَةِ فِيهَا. The Prophet ﷺ forbade from prolonging recitation in Salatul Isha. In Salatul Isha, the Prophet ﷺ forbade us from prolonging recitation. He said, if you are an imam, don't prolong recitation in Salatul Isha. That is why it's not reported from him that he recited from like Maghrib, that he recited from A'raf and No. His recitation is mostly from medium mufassal. And he even forbade in this particular Salah Isha that he forbade imam to prolong recitation in it. وَذَلِكَ هِينَ, and this happened the hadith starts, when Salah Mus'ab Ibn Jabal لِأَصْحَابِهِ الْإِشَاءَ فَطَوَّلَ عَلَيْهِمْ. When Mu'adh bin Jabal prayed with his people Salatul Isha, and he prolonged it. Now what Mu'adh bin Jabal used to do, he used to stay with the Prophet ﷺ and pray Isha with the Prophet, then he will go back to his village, and his village is the Imam. So people will be waiting for him in his village. We are waiting for Imam to come from where? To come from another masjid. He will go to the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ, he pray Isha with the Prophet, and he is also Imam in another masjid. Like if you have 2 masjid here, you will go to another masjid and pray Isha as a follower, as a mamu. Then you will go to your masjid, they will wait for you, they will be waiting for you to lead them in the prayer. This is what Mu'adh used to do. Now before we go on, we can deduce something from this hadith. What is that thing we can deduce from here? Yes? You can be a mamu for someone like you. Yeah, that you can pray obligatory prayer behind someone praying supererogatory prayer. If someone is praying nafil, because he already prayed Isha with the Prophet, and he's going to his masjid to pray nafil, to pray voluntary prayer, supererogatory prayer, he will pray the second Isha to him is not Isha. He didn't have to pray it. He already prayed Isha with the Prophet ﷺ. So now if he's praying again as an imam with his people, he's not praying Isha, he's just praying in nafila, like 4 rakah. But they are praying Isha and they pray behind him. Theirs is obligatory, his is voluntary. They are praying obligatory, he's praying supererogatory prayer. So you can do that. So now a case, a practical case to this. Who can give us a practical case where it will apply here with us now today? A practical case, a practical situation, a practical example. Give us today here in Abuja. This is just general example. Yeah, this is a good example. But another most frequent example is when you go to the masjid in Ramadan and Imam finished Salatul Isha and he's praying Salatul Taraweeh. This is not obligation. You can follow him to pray Isha. You miss Isha and you meet him praying Salatul Taraweeh. Then you can follow them. When he finishes his 2 rakah, you stand up and complete your rakah. You are praying obligatory Salatul Isha. He's praying Nafil. Salatul Layla, you can follow him to pray. So this is like a constant formula you can follow. If someone asks you why, but he's not praying. That is why some people, the knowledgeable among them, when they come to the masjid like in the day, like when someone is praying, they don't mind. If he missed Zuhur, he wouldn't even ask, what are you praying? He would just follow. So people will ask, is he praying Zuhur or Asr? Is he praying Zuhur or Asr? No problem when you ask about that, but you can just follow, you don't mind. The difference of intention is not a problem. He's intending Nafla, you are intending Fard. He's intending Zuhur, you are intending Asr. So that's no problem. So when you meet someone praying, you miss Zuhur, and you come to the masjid, and Imam is praying Asr, and you didn't pray Zuhur, you can just join him. It's 4 rak'ah, then you join with the intention of praying Zuhur. And after that, you will stand up and pray your Asr. Or if you find another congregation, you can follow them, or you can go to another masjid that prays late, and you can pray with them. Q&A session is coming immediately after this chapter. I know your questions. You have top questions. Okay. What again? Where are we? Okay, we are in the story of Mu'az, right? So, Salla Mu'az bin Jabal bi ashabihi al-isha fatawwal alayhim. Now, I tell you what Mu'az used to do. He will pray with the Prophet ﷺ and go to his people. Then Salla Mu'az bin Jabal li ashabihi al-isha. Mu'az bin Jabal, in one of the nights, he prayed Isha with his people. Fatawwal alayhim. He prolonged with them. They are already waiting for him. He's late. The Prophet ﷺ used to pray. He prayed behind the Prophet. Now, it's almost, the Prophet finished Salah. He will take the journey back to his village. They are still waiting for him in the masjid, and he prolonged. This is too much. فَانْصَرَفَ رَجُلٌ مِّنَ الْأَنصَارِ فَصَلَّى. And one of the people behind him, people of Medina, he just left. He said, I couldn't bear this. I waited for you long. You delayed with the Prophet. You took the journey to a village. Again, we are waiting for you. And you will prolong Salah. This is too much. You know, there is a story, there is a book called Akhbarul Hamqa. It's a book written by Ibn al-Jawzi. Akhbarul Hamqa is a book that has stories of full people. And he said in one of the Salah, one of them joined Imam. And Imam recited, and he has a need to go and fulfill. He has something to go and do. And Imam recited Surah Al-Baqarah. What is Baqarah? Cow, right? He recited Surah Al-Baqarah. And you know how long Surah Al-Baqarah is. And Imam read Surah Al-Baqarah, and he has his need to fulfill. But he persevered. When he finished Salah, tomorrow when he came to the masjid, and Imam started Surah Al-Fil. What is Fil? Elephant. He said, oh, I couldn't bear this. Yesterday you read cow and it was that long, and today you start elephant. So I don't know how long it's going to be. He just stopped Salah and he went away. This is not just a story. It's written in Akhbar al-Hamqa of Ibn al-Jawzi. So just a side story. Then he prolonged Salah, and this person, he left. He said, I couldn't bear this long Salah. I waited for you for long. You delayed, and now you are prolonging Salah. His name is Sulaim al-Gadfani, Sulaim. Then Sulaim just left. The name is not mentioned here. I just tell you the name from. فَأُخْبِرَ مُعَاذٌ anhu. After Salah, then the people informed Mu'adh about him. You know, Mu'adh, when you were praying Isha, Sulaim left. He said he couldn't endure it. He just left and he prayed his Salah and he went. فَقَالَ. Then Mu'adh said, إِنَّهُ munafiq. He's hypocrite. He couldn't bear long Salah. He is hypocrite. He's hypocrite. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ ذَلِكَ الرَّجُلَ. When Sulaim had this, he said, Mu'adh said, you are hypocrite. You know, when you left Salah and you finished your Salah and you left, we informed Mu'adh about it and he said, you are hypocrite. دَخَلَ عَلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فَأَخْبَرَهُ. Then he went straight to the Prophet ﷺ and he complained about Mu'adh. فَقَالَ فَأَخْبَرَهُ مَا قَالَ Mu'adh. To the Prophet he said, Ya Rasulullah, Mu'adh called me hypocrite. This is what he did just because I did this. فَقَالَ لَهُ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. Then the Prophet ﷺ said to Mu'adh, أَتُرِيدُ أَن تَكُونَ فَتَّانًا يَا Mu'adh. Do you want to be a person who causes trouble, Ya Mu'adh? Are you causing trouble? Do you want to turn people away from the religion? This religion is so simple, and you want to make people to be so bored that they couldn't even bear to pray. Why are you prolonging Salah? إِذَا أَمَّمْتَ النَّاسِ. Whenever you lead people in Salah, فَقْرَأْ بِوَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا. Read the likes of the Shams wa Duhaha. So short. So don't go reading about long chapters in Salatul Isha. وَسَبِّ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. Read the likes of سَبِّ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى. وَإِقْرَأْ بِاسْمِ رَبِّكَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ. Iqra the likes of اسْمِ رَبِّكَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ. وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. Iqra the likes of وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَى. فَإِنَّهُ يُسَلِّي وَرَاءَكَ الْكَبِيرُ. Because behind you there is an old person who is praying behind you. You cannot endure to stay long. وَالضَّعِيفُ. And there is a weak person. He's weak. He couldn't endure to stay long. With al-haja. And there is people who have their needs. They want to go and fulfill their needs. Maybe when he starts Salah, he has many needs that he wants to go and fulfill. The other person is weak. The other person is old. So take everyone on board. Take them into consideration. Be considerate with your followers when you are praying. So read the likes of this surah. So the Prophet ﷺ forbade Mu'adh from reading longer surah in Salatul Isha. Understood? So now there is another thing we can deduce from this, but because of time I will just deduce it, then we'll go on Q&A, inshallah. That's last thing. That when you are praying behind Imam, some scholars said this, and you remember that you have something urgent that you need to do. Something urgent that you need to do. You can just continue your salah and finish and go. Because this is what Sulaim did, and the Prophet ﷺ didn't ask him to repeat the prayer. It's strange, right? You're looking so it's strange, yeah. You start prayer with Imam, and he starts reciting long surah, and you just remember that you left your child at home and he's alone and everything can happen, anything can happen to him. You can just continue and go to ruku while the Imam is still reciting. Go for second rak'ah, finish and go. Because there is a need for that. This is what Sulaim did. He left. He didn't stop the prayer. He continued the prayer. He started with Mu'adh, but he shortened his prayer. He just made it like shorter surah and shorter everything, and he went back. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't ask him, why did you have to repeat the salah? Because there was need for that. So if there is need, not only on normal occasions you do that, but there is a special need. Something is going to happen. It is urgent. You have a sick person. It's time for his medication. So anything could happen if you didn't give him medicine at that time. You have a child that you left, and anything could happen to that child. You have something important really that you can lose a life, you can lose a wealth, then you can just shut in your prayer and leave Imam while he's praying his second rak'ah, you've already done, and you will go out. When someone asks you, what you did is wrong, you said there is Hadees. Sulaim did that, and the Prophet ﷺ confirmed that to him. The Prophet didn't ask him to, even in the longer version of Hadees, the Prophet ﷺ asked him, he said, what do you used to recite, Ya Sulaim, when you're praying? He said, only Fatiha. And I will ask Allah Jannah, I will seek protection from hellfire. This is how I do prayer. But you and Mu'adh, you used to prolong salah and making longer recitation that I don't understand what you are saying. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, Hawlaha nudandin. Me and Mu'adh, all we're doing is asking Allah Jannah and seeking protection from hellfire. So even if we read a longer recitation, the purpose behind that longer recitation is to get to Jannah. So we have the same purpose with you. We are united in purpose. Understood? So we finish with Isha, and this is where the second session will finish. Then we go for Q&A. Before that, let's just make a summary. Most of the recitation of the Prophet ﷺ in 5 daily prayers is in Mufassal, right? Sometimes he goes out of Mufassal. In some of Salah, he goes out of Mufassal. In Salatul Isha in particular, there was no narration that he went out of Mufassal. And he even forbade prolonging. But in other salah, we have narrations that sometimes he goes out of mufassal. In Salatul Subh, he recites mostly from the longer mufassal, which starts from Surah Qaf to Surah Nazi'at. And in Salatul Zuhur, Salatul Asr, and Salatul Isha, he recites from medium mufassal, which starts from Surah Nazi'at to Surah Duha. And in Salatul Maghrib, he recites from where? From shorter mufassal, but sometimes he will recite from longer and medium mufassal, like in Salatul Subh he also recite from shorter and medium mufassal, and sometimes he even read the longer of two longest surah, Suratul A'raf and even Suratul Anfal in 2 rak'ats. So this is why we're going to stop for this for the second class, then Q&A. Alaikum salam.
So when we pray Salatul Zuhur and Salatul Asr, of course the Imam is reciting. Then you as a follower, sometimes the concentration is not steady.
Salatul Zuhur and Asr, right?
Zuhur and Asr, yeah. So if you're praying, how can you make the concentration to be very good and upright?
You can make your concentration by reciting us as well. When Imam is reciting in a quiet prayer, you recite behind him. This is the opinion of majority of scholars. I think only one school of jurisprudence has a difference in this. I'm not sure, but I think it's Hanafi school. But the majority, like Ibn Taymiyyah even said, this issue is very important, that scholars wrote books about it. Imam al-Bukhari wrote a book about this. It's called Juz'ul Qira'ati Ba'd al-Imam. Juz'ul Qira'ah. He has Juz'ul Qira'ah, a book specifically on whether you recite behind Imam or not. Ibn Taymiyyah also has a book about it. Now, one Imam, what they concluded is that one Imam is reciting in Zuhr and Asr, you will have to recite behind him. Because you can't hear what he's reciting. Maybe he will just let you hear a verse and you continue reading silently. Therefore, you recite. So the concentration is when you are reading, you concentrate on when you are reading. Good. The next step.
I'm sorry. You made mention that you can pray behind anybody regardless of intention.
Yeah.
So what are the places whereby the rak'ahs are not?
Yeah. I know your questions are always difficult. They are exception.
And the second one, still similar to the one, if you pray behind a congregation that combining prayers due to rain or one of those factors, but they are praying Isha, so you pray behind them as Maghrib, then you don't meet complete. That means you complete your prayer after them. You also join.
No, you don't complete your prayer after them. You will finish before them because you're praying Maghrib, they're praying Isha.
You're meeting them, but they're ahead of you.
They're ahead of you, good.
So you complete your prayer after them.
Yeah.
You still join your prayer after them.
Okay, now listen to this. This is a bit difficult. It's not difficult, it's a bit complicated question. Now we say you can pray behind anyone regardless of the intention. So he's praying Zuhr, you are praying Asr. He's praying Fard, you are praying Nafl. He's praying Nafl, you are praying Fard. So what of in cases where there is different of rak'ahs? You miss, let's say, Salatul Maghrib. You want to pray Salatul Maghrib. And he's praying Salatul Isha. You will pray only 3 rak'ah. And he's praying 4. What are you going to do? Preferably, Bin Baz said, don't join if there is this difference. Preferably, don't join. I'm praying Zuhur, he's praying Asr, I can follow him. I'm praying Isha, he's praying Asr, I can follow him. 4 rak'ah, no problem. But he's praying Nafl, I'm praying Salatul Subh, he's praying 2 rak'ah, I will pray behind him. He's praying Maghrib, I'm praying Isha, I can follow him because I will add another rak'ah. But in a case whereby I will need to say Salam before him, I want to pray Subh, but he's praying Isha. So I need to say Salam before him, preferably don't follow him. This is the fatwa of Bin Baz, and I think is the easiest. But some scholars said you can follow him, and some scholars, when you follow him, what are you going to do? Some of them said that you just say Salam when you finish. Some of them said no, you wait for him. When he finishes, you come back and you say Salam together. So the best thing, the preferable is to follow Bin Baz fatwa. Just when there is this difference, when there is Maghrib in the question, don't pray behind anyone if there is Maghrib, because the Maghrib is the one with this complication. So now you want to, when the second question you finish and you come and follow him. This is Malaysian, Asian Salah, almost different from. Then the next, okay, the same table, if he permits. Are you asking a question? Yeah.
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam forbid you who pray themselves. Like when the Imam starts, then you cannot pray by yourself, you need to join the prayer.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do this? Like if we say in Isha we entered because of rain, it's Isha prayer. So you didn't pray Maghrib, you didn't pray. So can we pray from the Bifaz saying? You said that
You pray a lot.
pray.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do that?
So you don't necessarily have to pray in the masjid. The wording of the hadith is إِذَا أُقِيمَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَلَا صَلَاةَ إِلَّا الَّتِي أُقِيمَتْ. This is the best wording. It comes إِذَا أُقِيمَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَلَا صَلَاةَ إِلَّا الْمَكْتُوبَةِ, but the best wording, as Ibn Hajar said, لَا صَلَاةَ إِلَّا الَّتِي أُقِيمَتْ. Then you go outside the masjid and pray. You cannot pray two prayers in the same masjid. He's praying Isha, you're praying Maghrib. So you go outside and pray, and that you solve the problem is solved. Next table. Like two surahs, like what? Like how? You recite.
In the first rakah, you recite Surah Al-Fil. That is the first surah. Then you recite maybe Surah Al-Iqra in the same rakah.
So you recite the Iqra and Surah Al-Fil, if you are taking them specifically, Iqra is longer. Is that what you mean, that you read the longer one?
Not reciting surah, two surahs.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, okay, in one rak'ah. Yes, you can recite. I think either we did it or it's going to come. That the Prophet ﷺ used to combine two surah in two chapters in the same rak'ah. I think it will come. We're going to study a heading about that, combining more than one surah in the same rak'ah. We're going to study that heading, inshallah, today or tomorrow. Yes. Assalam.
One question. I'm going to combine my question in three questions into one question. So, you mentioned earlier about Salatul Nabi, reciting 20 ayahs in the first raka'ah, and you mentioned Surah Al-Buruj and Surah Al-Tariq as the surahs that Prophet used to recite. So, Surah Al-Buruj has 22 verses, Surah Al-Tariq has 17 verses. So, does that mean you would recite 22 verses from Surah Al-Buruj and get another 8 verses from, Surah Al-Tariq to make it 30, or does this mean that reciting Surah Al-Buruj it will suffice as for the 30 verses?
Yeah.
My second question was from the first session we did about going into ruku after coughing. There are certain ayahs that, if you don't recite the entire ayah, it changes the meaning of the verse. For example, when you say La ilaha, La ilaha, it says there's no God. And if you don't complete it, it changes the meaning. So does that mean one should finish the verse, or when the person comes, the person should just go right away into sujood?
Good.
And my third question is about hastening the prayer. You mentioned that in Salatul Isha, the person that hastens his prayer. Is it only for Salatul Isha, or it can be to the other
Okay. Good. Surah Al-Tariq, there are less than 30 verses. Is occasionally, sometimes, mostly he recites 30 verses. But sometimes he recites something less than that, and sometimes he recites something more than that. So when you want to recite 30 verses, don't recite Surah Al-Buruj and Surah Al-Tariq. And another time you want to also follow another sunnah, also read Surah Al-Buruj and Surah Al-Tariq. So it's optional. It's just like you have multiple options. You have multiple options that you can do this. But mostly, in most of the cases, he would recite 30 verses. But not always 30 verses. That is why he gave you many variations, that sometimes also this and sometimes also this. Right? Now on the second question of... Remind me of the second question.
Going into ruku
after coughing. That's the last question you asked. Going into ruku after coughing, and sometimes the verse is not complete. This is an exception. An exception. You cannot read a verse like... The proper example is فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, punishment, torment, woe to prayers, to people who are praying. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ, those who are carried away from salah, is a completion. So when you say وَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, it's not complete. But it's an exception. When you are coughing, you can just go to ruku. That's why it's an exception. It's an exception that even if you are in the mid of a verse, the minute is not complete, but you start coughing, you can go to ruku. But on normal circumstances, you cannot do that. You cannot be reading and the minute is not complete, you go to ruku. But now you are coughing, so that is why it is an exception. So you can go to ruku. The last question?
Yeah, last question.
From her. She has 3 questions.
The last question is about hating your salah.
Yeah. Is it only in Salatul Isha? No, in all Salah. Once you have a valid reason to do that, you can do that, inshallah. But know that this is a point of contention. This is a point of difference. You will have a lot of challenge from people. SubhanAllah, why did you do that? So don't just try to do it just to... What did I do something like that? Did I do something? Yeah. I told you last time, when someone is seeking knowledge and, like me, I get closer to bigger scholars like Uthaymin and bigger scholars when I was 16. So, at that teen age, you just need to show people you know what you're doing now, the more you read. And one day I read the book of Fawzan, Mulakhasul Fiqh is one of the most interesting books I read. I was 16. And I read in it that, when Imam is given khutbah, you don't talk. You keep silent. Then I read in that book that when Imam finishes the first khutbah and he sits down, you can talk. Then I was so amazed with that. And we went to masjid. And it was the masjid of the Prophet in Medina. And when Imam sat down, then I started talking to someone next to me. There was no need of talking. I just want him to understand that I know what I'm doing. I know you can talk at this point. He's not a scholar in Nigeria, though I stopped him, but he's a scholar. He said, keep quiet. Then after I said, you can do that. I just want to show you that. No, go to this book and read. So be careful. Don't just shut in your continue prayer just to tell people. You will attract a lot of attention to yourself, and not everyone will agree with you. Think that it's an innovation. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just wants to show up and think like that. But it's valid point. You can do it as well. So any other question?
Can I use to do the tilawah like in first prayer? For instance, when I'm reciting
ربك الذي خلق and you reach
yes, and then I
was
do
Jude.
the last yes, and then can I go for this tilawah, come up and go for the food? That's my first question. My second question is how long can a person stay just a while on journey?
Okay. On the first question, I like telling stories when answering questions. That can one go for sujood while in front prayer? It's like after the question you asked me, which book are we reciting? We did it. We did this in just now. Like few minutes ago. That the Prophet will do sujood when he recites which surah? And you tell me that which I even asked one of you, which surah? Yeah. When he's Sama'un Shakat, when what's the verse again? وَإِذَا قُرِئَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقُرْآنُ لَا يَسْجُدُونَ. I said he can go. So we just read it. So that's the answer. The answer is in the book. Yes, you can. And your second question is how long? As long as you are a traveler. As long as you are a traveler, you can shorten a prayer. So there is no limitation because the Prophet ﷺ prayed 17 days praying Qasr in Mecca when he went for the conquest of Mecca. 30 days praying Qasr when he went for the conquest of Tabuk. On the Battle of Tabuk, he prayed 30 days. On conquest of Mecca, he prayed 17 days. On Abdullah bin Umar and Abdullah bin Abbas prayed Qasr for 3 months and 6 months in Khurasan. So as long as you are on a journey, that is why the strongest fatwa we give people on service, NYSC, to continue praying Qasr. When I did my masters, as long as 1 year, I was praying Qasr. So you can pray Qasr as much as you want.